Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so excited to be here with you in this week's national study, Receiving the Sacred Word of Kyoshu-sama and Masaaki-sama. This week, we will be watching together Masaaki-sama's video message number 21, The Sacred Ground of Soil, Africa, that was just released a few days ago. This sacred word is so special, and I can't wait to watch it with you. In it, we can see that Meishu-sama is making great strides in advancing the divine plan of God on a worldwide scale. At the same time, we can see that through this very sacred word, we are being called, each one of us, to unite forces and work together in bringing this will of Meishu-sama into a reality. Truly, it is so amazing to be a part of this divine plan, to be a true follower of Meishu-sama, receiving the will of Meishu-sama through the holy seed of Kyoshu. And I'm really looking forward to watching this message with you right after this. Before we begin today, I would like to take a minute to thank all of you for supporting our activities in so many ways. I would like to express a special thanks to all of you who are donating, and also all our sponsors whose participation make it possible for us to bring content like this and so many other projects to life. So thank you. This year, we have many projects taking place, such as the Bible Distribution Project, World Church of Messiah Choir, and the Youth Summer Camp, just to name a few. If you'd like to get more involved, find out how you can support, or find out more ways in which you can participate in these amazing activities and projects, reach out to your local church, or you can email us, as you see the email here in the bottom of the screen, or DM us directly. As we begin our study, let us keep in mind that it is only by God's grace, by Kyoshu-sama's permission, and by the existence of the holy seed of Kyoshu that we are able to have these studies. And it goes without saying that without the holy seed of Kyoshu, and without Kyoshu-sama and Masaaki-sama, there would be no sacred word to study. And even to receive Meishu-sama's will, we would be at a loss. So, with a grateful heart, let us, in the name of Messiah, express this gratitude to God as we study together today, receiving this sacred word this week. So let us begin with the church canon. Church canon. With great fear of God, we acknowledge that the Lord God is our true Father, the one and only God. We revere Meishu-sama as the model for all humanity and as our own example to follow. Meishu-sama, who was born anew as the true child of God, the Messiah, by receiving the divine will that God accomplished in heaven. We believe that Jesus Christ, who 2,000 years ago embodied the name of Messiah, the name most holy and high, is serving the Lord God in unity with Meishu-sama. And we regard the sacred word of Kyoshu-sama, who reveals to us the will of Meishu-sama in this material world, as the sole, absolute, and irreplaceable foundation in advancing our mission here on earth. Words of prayer. God, I acknowledge that you are alive. Within me, you are alive. I thank you for nurturing me to be newly born as your child. May this blessing be shared with all. In the name of Messiah, which is one with Meishu-sama, I surrender myself to you. Please use me as you wish. Thank you very much. So this week, the Instagram post I chose comes from Kyoshu-sama's hymns for December 2023. And in this hymn, Kyoshu-sama shares the following. You tirelessly work, O God, to make us humanity inherit your wish. You tirelessly work, O God, to make us humanity inherit your wish. Today, through the sacred word of Kyoshu-sama in Masaaki-sama, we have come to know that God is constantly, non-stop, advancing his work so that his will is fulfilled. Is it not? And though we know this, I think we have a vague idea of what that means. However, upon hearing Masaaki-sama's message number 21, we can actually have a glimpse, even if just a little, of how tirelessly God is advancing his plan for this to occur. This is truly amazing to be a part of this, and we're being called to inherit God's wish. With this in mind, I would like to watch Masaaki-sama's message number 21 together with you.
Africa. Africa. When I think about the enormity of the mission Meishu-sama entrusted to you, my heart trembles with hope and excitement. All of us know that Meishu-sama in Japan constructed the three sacred grounds of Hakone, Atami, and Kyoto. Hakone of fire, Atami of water, and Kyoto of soil. This was when Meishu-sama was advancing his divine work mainly in Japan during his lifetime here on earth. But now, as all of you know very well, Meishu-sama advances his work throughout the world, and he now has a new thought about sacred grounds and the role they should play. Needless to say, as I have said it before, all the sacred grounds that have existed until today have been tainted and desecrated by the despicable and cowardly acts of spying and blackmail committed against Kyoshu-sama by Sekai Kyuseikyo. These places are no longer sacred. They are just pieces of land without any connection to Meishu-sama. Taking this issue into consideration, and also seeing that his members now exist in every corner of the world, Meishu-sama now has a new vision of sacred grounds. The sacred grounds of fire, water, and soil are no longer attributed to Hakone, Atami, and Kyoto, but to something much greater, something that encompasses the whole world. That is, the sacred ground of fire is now attributed to Japan, more specifically to the holy sanctuary of the Messiah that World Church of Messiah will construct. Meishu-sama has already determined the place for the sacred ground of water, but the time is not yet ripe for me to specify the place today. And third, the sacred ground of soil is now attributed to Africa, more specifically to the sacred ground that the African members will construct in the Holy Land of Angola. Before, it was Hakone, Atami, and Kyoto. Today, in this global age, it is Japan, a place I am not allowed to say yet, and Africa. Japan, the sacred ground of fire, and Africa, the sacred ground of soil. Africa is our motherland, right? It is the cradle of humanity. What place is better than Africa to be the sacred ground representing soil? It is just so fitting that Africa be the sacred ground of soil. And what is the role that the sacred ground of soil, the African sacred ground, should play? What is soil, then? Meishu-sama wrote the following. What you should know is the true significance of soil. When God the Creator prepared human beings a long time ago, He also created something that would produce enough food to sustain all human beings on earth. This something is soil. Meishu-sama is saying that the role of soil is to produce food to sustain human beings on earth. Naturally then, the role that the sacred ground of soil, that is the African sacred grounds, is to play should correspond to this will of Meishu-sama, this will of God. As I told you in my previous message, Meishu-sama taught us that when the ideal world comes, that is, when a paradise on earth is established, all of humanity will practice a vegan diet. He said that all of humanity will follow a vegan diet in the world of Miroku. By the way, in my last message, I used the phrase strict vegetarian diet. But actually, vegetarian or vegetarian diet is an ambiguous term, so I wish to avoid using it from now on. When using the Japanese term saishoku, Meishu-sama is essentially referring to a vegan diet. So the term vegan diet is more appropriate when describing the diet of the world of Miroku. What I'm trying to say is that Africa, the sacred ground of soil, should be the place to put forth great effort into the practice of Meishu-sama's nature farming. In this way, Africa could not only correspond to the will of Meishu-sama when he says that all people in the world will one day follow a vegan diet, but it could also produce a great amount of food to feed humanity. Yes, that's right. People of the world might have the image that Africa is poor, that African people suffer from hunger, and that Africa needs help. But Africa should and must prove them wrong. I mean, more than proving them wrong, Africa must practice nature farming on the greatest scale possible. On the greatest scale possible, and rather than being fed, it should play the role of feeding the African people. No, feeding all of humanity to fulfill its role as the sacred ground of soil. The African sacred grounds of World Church of Messiah must turn into a place that epitomizes this role that has been assigned by God and Meishu-sama to all of you, the African people. I know there will be a lot of difficulties ahead. I know there will be times when you think that it is impossible to practice nature farming in Africa where there are many dry lands. But I am certain that God and Meishu-sama will provide you with divine wisdom and assistance to overcome these difficulties and hardships. The time has come for all of you, the African members, to fulfill the role Meishu-sama assigned to you. Go and start practicing nature farming to produce grains like corn. Grow vegetables, root vegetables, legumes, every kind of produce that can be harvested in your land. Let World Church of Messiah in Africa lead other churches around the world in the practice of nature farming and a vegan diet. Let World Church of Messiah in Africa lead the world in the efforts of constructing a world of Miroku, a paradise on earth. I say go on and start projects that even encourage people outside of our church to practice nature farming and a vegan diet. The world thinks that Africa is always influenced by outside forces. Let us prove it wrong. Just to be clear, I am not saying that we have to deny medical science like we did before. Nor am I giving any medical advice here. If you have concerns about your health, you should always consult a doctor and listen to the advice. What I'm talking about now is something much greater. It is about faith, about the mission Africa carries, and about the future of humanity. Africa, the sacred ground of soil. I believe the expectation Meishu-sama has of you, the people in Africa, is immense. By following the diet of the world of Miroku and by practicing nature farming, that is, by practicing a farming method proposed by Meishu-sama that prohibits the use of any type of chemical, pesticide, or fertilizer, including animal manure, and only allows the use of simple and natural forms of compost, members in Africa will become the models for all other members in the world to follow. When I talk about food, I talk about it not only for us to correspond to the sacred word of Meishu-sama regarding the diet in the world of Miroku, but also to correspond to the will of Meishu-sama who taught us the importance of nature farming. I strongly wish to correspond to these wills of Meishu-sama together with the African members and together with members all around the world. To those who are not in Africa, to those who are in Brazil, Portugal, the United States, Japan, Korea, Bolivia, Australia, the United Kingdom, and so forth, I encourage all of you to follow the example of Africa so that we can be worthy of being regarded as residents of the world of Miroku. To all of you who are in Africa, let us practice nature farming like never before. Let us produce food through nature farming. Let us correspond to the will of Meishu-sama. And with our own hands, let us create a bright and glorious future for all of humanity. I believe it is in this way that you, the African members, will be able to fulfill the mission Meishu-sama has entrusted to you. You who live on the sacred ground of soil, that is, in Africa.
Welcome back, everybody. How did you receive this video message? I found it quite extraordinary. As we read in Kyoshu-sama's hymn today, we can see that truly God's plan is advancing tirelessly for us to inherit His wish. In such a short amount of time, our church is expanding and growing by leaps and bounds, and no longer bound to Japan. Now, in a worldwide scale, Meishu-sama is advancing his work. This is truly an exciting time. Wouldn't you agree? There are many points that move me upon receiving this message, and when the transcript comes out, I love to read it with you and go over it, in a more detail. But today I'd like to highlight just a few. The first is that Masaaki-sama shared that the sacred grounds of fire, water, and soil are no longer attributed to Hakone, Atami, and Kyoto, but something much, much greater, something that encompasses the whole world, as he says. And then he continued, before it was Hakone, Atami, and Kyoto. Today, in this global age, it is Japan, a place I am not allowed to say yet, and Africa. Then he continues and he says, what you should know is the true significance of soil. When God, the Creator, prepared human beings a long time ago, He also created something that would produce enough food to sustain all human beings on earth. This something is soil. Masaaki-sama continues and he says, Meishu-sama is saying that the role of soil is to produce food to sustain human beings on earth. Naturally, then, the role that the sacred ground of soil, that is, the African sacred ground, is to play should correspond to this will of Meishu-sama, this will of God. Just taking a quick pause, right? Have we ever thought of the role of soil in this way? Furthermore, have we ever thought of the role of the sacred ground to be something so concrete? For years, I think we studied and knew the representation of the sacred ground as fire, water, and earth, correct? But today, through this sacred word, we see that the sacred grounds have a concrete role in society. They're not merely symbolic representations, like for many years I've had that idea. Furthermore, look at what Masaaki-sama shares with us regarding Africa. He says, as I told you in my previous message, Meishu-sama taught us that when the ideal world comes, that is, when a paradise on earth is established, all of humanity will practice a vegan diet. He said that all of humanity will follow a vegan diet in the world of Miroku. Just a quick pause, right? Because this is really amazing, right? As Masaaki-sama is sharing what Meishu-sama's sacred word, it's something that will happen to the entire world, this change. It's not something that might happen, or maybe if I want, it will happen. No, it will happen, and the whole world will be following a vegan diet. I think that's a very important point that for us to really think about, right? And go a little bit deeper. And then furthermore, he says, how is this to play about, right? How are we to move forward in this? He said that, Masaaki-sama continues, right? He said that all of humanity will follow a vegan diet in the world of Miroku. Then he says, what I'm trying to say is that Africa, the sacred ground of soil, should be the place to put forth great effort into the practice of Meishu-sama's nature farming. In this way, Africa could not only correspond to the will of Meishu-sama when he says that all people in the world will one day follow a vegan diet, but it could also produce a great amount of food to feed humanity. This is huge, right? I don't think we ever thought of Africa in this way, have we? And then Masaaki-sama shares, he says, people of the world might have the image that Africa is poor, that African people suffer from hunger, and that Africa needs help. But Africa should and must prove them wrong. Furthermore, he says, I mean, more than proving them wrong, Africa must practice nature farming on the greatest scale possible. On the greatest scale possible. And rather than being fed, it should play the role of feeding the African people. No, feeding all of humanity to fulfill its role as the sacred ground of soil. Everybody, this is huge, right? Masaaki-sama is not only setting forth a vision for Africa to practice Meishu-sama's nature farming and live this vegan diet and become a role model, right? But at the same time, setting a vision that will feed the world on a worldwide scale with Meishu-sama's nature farming. This is amazing and truly exciting, right? And further, he says, the African sacred grounds of World Church of Messiah must turn into a place that epitomizes this role that has been assigned by God in Meishu-sama to all of you, the African people. Later on, he shares, right? He says, let World Church of Messiah in Africa lead other churches around the world in the practice of nature farming and vegan diet. Let World Church of Messiah in Africa lead the world in the efforts of constructing a world of Miroku, a paradise on earth. It's really encouraging, right? And not only that, not just limited to the sacred grounds, right? Not just limited to Africa. Masaaki-sama furthermore says, I say go on and start projects that even encourage people outside of our church to practice nature farming and vegan diet. Furthermore, we might think, oh, this is just for Africa, right? Just members who are in Africa. But he says, this is for us members who are not in Africa as well. He says, to those who are not in Africa, to those who are in Brazil, Portugal, the United States, Japan, Korea, Bolivia, Australia, the United Kingdom, and so forth, I encourage all of you to follow the example of Africa so that we can be worthy of being regarded as residents of the world of Miroku. Truly, this sacred word is so inspiring, right, for each one of us. And no longer are the sacred grounds bounded to Japan, as they're no longer Hakone, Atami, and Kyoto, but now in a worldwide scale. Not only are they real, but they have a concrete role in bringing this world of Miroku about, right? And we're going to see this in such a huge scale, and it is so exciting to be a part of it. We're so blessed to be receiving this sacred word, and I hope you can share with your family and friends. And also, I think it's important for us to start realizing that us changing into a vegan diet, right? Us working toward this vision of Meishu-sama is also very important, right? We are here to lead the world in this direction. So let us be the first to make that change. Let us start, right? And live this sacred word of Meishu-sama so that we can become these true role models for the world of Miroku, as Masaaki-sama mentions in this sacred message. I really am excited to go forward with you in this direction together as one church, as one holy members of World Church of Messiah, who bring forth this will of Meishu-sama with our own hands, as Masaaki-sama shares in this video. So let us, with joy, with hope, and with courage, take a big step forward with our brothers and sisters in Africa, bringing this holy word of Meishu-sama into fruition. Thank you so much for joining us, and may all honor, may all glory be returned to God always.